Here we go. What's up, everybody? It's the journalist Sincere. It's my partner, Uncle E, and this is Changing Other Hip Hop Guards podcast. And tonight we have the pleasure of speaking with Dumi Wright of Zimbabwei Legit. Thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Hey, how's it going? It's an honor and pleasure to be here. Good to see both of y'all. What up, E? Nice to meet you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Appreciate the invite to come chop it up with you.
Always, man. Always. Anytime you got something new, this is your home, and we'd love to support you each time and every time you got something new to come out and speak about. So for those who may have forgotten or may have never heard of you, can you talk to us a little bit about growing up in Africa and that transition to the United States?
Okay, yeah, for sure. So for people catching up for the first time, for those who are familiar, it's a little bit of a recap. So family is from Zimbabwe. So 3 out of the 4 kids, I'll give you the whole backstory, were born in the U.S. because my parents were in exile before independence. And so they were living upstate New York, which is where I ended up being born, up in Syracuse, and then left. And I was still like real young, like I was like 5, and we moved first to Zambia, which is a neighboring country, and then Zimbabwe. So that's where I kind of my formative years, school, elementary and high school, and also where I discovered hip hop and began my love affair with this music and art form that we all love. And that was back, just to give you the time frame, in high school in the late 80s. So obviously, approaching the golden age and absorbing and taking in all that great music and those influences. And then came to the U.S. in the early 90s. And that's when I started my professional career as part of Zimbabwe Legit and the label Hollywood Basic.
Now, let me ask you, were you getting the hip hop over there in a timely manner, or was it coming kind of late?
That's a great question. So hip hop and TV shows came late. Like like the Who Shot JR, we were a couple months behind and all that. And same thing with the movies, right? They pop off here, and then we'd eventually get them filtering in. With hip hop, it was interesting though because we got a lot of mainstream pop music on the radio, as well as like local music, African music. So you could hear Madonna and Whitney Houston and Michael Jackson and stuff like that. But you didn't really hear rap, like, because it hadn't, permeated the airwaves, and it was obviously in the early to mid 80s, still, growing art form even in the U.S. And so the way we'd get to hear it was through friends, relatives, or people who had contacts outside of the country that would either like record tapes and send them over, come back and, have cassettes of the latest recordings, or like people who had records. And so I remember a lot of my early influences and kind of how I discovered music was like through tapes of like Cool DJ Red Alert Goes Berserk on 98.7 Kiss. I remember Tim Westwood on a Fresh Start to the Week, getting tapes because, my older brother had friends and connections in the UK, so we'd get tapes from like UK radio shows playing hip hop. And then even just as far as early on, hearing about the music, it was kind of peripheral through like anything written up in like Ebony or Jet magazine. Again, not available in the stores, but you got a cousin, you got an uncle or somebody like, oh, send me that magazine. And then there was a magazine called Blues and Soul out of the UK. And so we'd flip through to try to find, where's the hip hop? Oh, they're talking about Public Enemy. Oh, this happened. And so it was kind of sporadically we heard stuff. And then through friends, we had like a underground network. Informally, everybody would just trade tapes, right? It's like, yo, I got this new tape. Oh, who is it? Oh, it's Rakim. Oh, word. Eric B. and Rakim. Oh, I got this other tape. It's LL. Okay, let's trade. Oh, I've got this UTFO. Oh, I got the new Houdini. Somebody got the Fat Boys. Oh, who has the Fat Boys? Oh, we need to go get up on that. Who's got a double deck? Oh, we're going to go to his house and we go to record. Get your TDKs, and go record the tapes. So it's totally like, because you go into the store and there's no rap records for purchase, you know what I mean? So you're just hearing it, the secondary market for like all of it. And then eventually the radio, a couple hip DJs would play, like there'd be like a half hour radio show and they play some stuff. But you know, you're just getting like the tip of the iceberg. So everything else was kind of imported that we kind of listened to and checked out.
Right. So, do you remember a particular, as far as the music goes, do you remember a particular song that really grabbed you as far as like, wow, what is this? And for example, for me, as a kid, Jimmy Spicer, Dollar Bill, y'all, I don't know if you're familiar. That to me, like when I heard that, it was something about that song that I was just like really got me intrigued more into, the whole thing of hip hop. Was there a particular song for you?
I'm trying to think. So it's a couple of songs. So I'll tell you this. Like, I remember I had like it was like a EP or something out of the UK. We used to get these compilation records through DJs called Electro Funk. I think it was just called Electro Volume 1, 2, 3, 4. And so I remember there was like Captain Rock, Roxanne, and different stuff on each record. And then I remember hearing a record with it had Roxanne and Hitman Howie T, Let's Go Go, and then what was it? Eric B. I think it was Eric B. for President. Okay. And I remember listening to that song, and I was like confused, because at that time rap was like super hyper and everything, and this cat was just like super laid back. And like the stuff he was talking about, I got you too hot, I burned off my wings, and it was just like, yo, that's like a whole different like style. Like it's it's not your typical average everyday. But what really made an impact on us in a big way was when Stetsasonic did their song Africa.
Yeah.
Zimbabwe, and it was like,
right.
RICA, Angola, Soweto, Zimbabwe, Tanzania, Zambia, Mozambique, and Botswana, and that's all the neighboring countries. About, protesting apartheid, free South Africa, and so there was Botswana and Angola, and then of course Zimbabwe. So we were like, yo, this is it.
Somebody shouted us out,
on the map. We felt really present, we felt really seen. And so I think that song kind of changed the mindset to where I was kind of like, we're part of this thing. It wasn't just like us observing it and hearing about it from a distance. It was like, we're a whole part of it. And then when the Afrocentric movement in hip hop started, again, Afrocentric. So we felt like we was the center of attention, like, because that's what we were talking about and mentioning. So that really had a big impact, I think, on us and kind of inspiring our development and growth.
Dope. Speaking of that, we might as well give a shout out with B Wise from Stetsasonic, right?
What's that?
B Wise from Stetsasonic that we had on. He spoke about this.
Right.
He spoke about that song you just mentioned.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. That's just pretty dope, man. Yeah. So at what point then do you feel like, what, let me give it a try. Let me see if I can do these rhymes that I'm hearing and see if I got it. At what point does that start to happen for you?
So we started out just like as listeners, and then as I find with many hip hop artists and even a lot of folks from the continent, I started out dancing. I was a b-boy.
Okay.
I had the dopest head spin like you ever seen. I was like the only one in the crew that like could really kill it on head spin. That was my signature move. But dancing, popping, even doing earlier than that, like electric boogaloo and all of that. And so at some point, from listening, I started thinking about like, why don't I try to, tell my story? Because that was what was also gripping about the music and hip hop was that people were telling their individual stories. Like I felt like with pop music, it was kind of general love songs about, a relationship gone bad or a relationship gone good, but it was kind of just very generic and general, you know what I mean? There wasn't topical. Whereas with hip hop, it was like, you're listening to the message and they're giving you a window into where they live and what, the block is like and, the troubles and tribulations. So it really like was poignant, you know what I mean? And engaging. It wasn't just like, this happened and happy go lucky. And it was also like empowering because it's like, okay, you can have a voice. So first I started just writing. And then I don't know if y'all did this when y'all were coming up. Had the little tape recorder and recorded myself rapping. And I listened back to the like Alvin and the Chipmunks voice coming back at me, and I'm like, oh man, that's awful. I can't come on, because you sound high. And I mean, I'm like, like a high school kid or even younger, a teenager, and so like I did not like the way I sounded, but I was like, yo, I'm just gonna keep writing. You know what I mean? I ain't gonna spit it. I ain't ready for people to hear it yet, but I'm just gonna keep writing. So just kept writing, and then I gotta give a shout out to my brother Akim, who's my partner in Zimbabwe legit, and my cousin Pet, because they were doing it. They were older, so they were obviously able to get out more, but they started making inroads to like radio, to where they'd go to the local radio station, and he'd have like his half-hour show once a week, the DJ, and he'd let some people get on and write rhymes and spit, and they even had like some old school battles between like the folks from Harare and the crews from Bulawayo and all this stuff, all in fun. And I was still at that point an observer, but seeing them do it kind of gave me the confidence too to be like, oh yeah, I can put it down. And I was confident in the stuff I was writing, and so through that process, in Cypher and in the house. But another big thing that kind of gave us like, I don't know, an accelerator in becoming rhyme was those 12 inches with the instrumentals.
Okay.
I remember we rapped over Ice-T Colors to death. And that joint, because it had the instrumental on it, and like we could just or whatever. And we'd record air to air, be like, oh, you can't get access to a boombox. It's like, yeah, okay. It's like, okay, so you put the tape over there, and I'm gonna play the beat on the record player, and then we just gonna rap air to air. And that was like our first
nice.
foray into doing it, even before like having any equipment or access to studio.
Nice.
So that's kind of just how it all began, like kind of the seeds get planted, and then as we developed, I got more comfortable with how I sounded and honing like how I spit and what I was trying to say. It kind of developed from there.
Got you. Real quick, you told us about how you guys would get the music, to be able to listen, but you mentioned dancing prior to rhyming. What were you seeing? How were you getting like footage or to see how to break dance and all that?
Nah, that's a great question. So Beat Street, hugely influential. And back in the days, you all know, to go to the theaters, there's not like the DVD or the VHS. So we'd go to the theater. I think I saw Beat Street like 10 times, like paying, going through the door.
Okay.
And I pocket money on and go see the movie. Where'd you go? Going to see Beat Street again. And then similarly, folks that had like friends or cousins would be like, hey, we got this thing from Top of the Pops, and oh, we got this recording from from the UK or whatever, this video program, and it's got there's some break dancing in it. And I remember
that's crazy.
Gladys Knight, I think, is it Love Overboard? No, Save the Overtime for Me.
Okay.
I think it's the New York City Breakers are in that video,
right.
And so bit by bit we'd see things or whatever, and then obviously the movie over here it was called I guess Breaking in Zimbabwe, or in overseas markets they called it the movie Breakdance with Ozone and Turbo.
Oh, Breaking. Yeah.
That ended up making it to theaters over there and stuff, and then through video cassettes we'd see people's stuff. And then I think as towards later in the 80s, some of the TV shows got a little bit hip, and so you'd see, I think I remember seeing Malcolm McLaren Buffalo Girls. Oh wow, that's mind-blowing. And then what was their name? Break Control, Street Dance.
Right.
And so be studying that again. Anybody who had a VCR, it's like record that joint. Some people had Betamax. Like, record that, and we'd be in there studying. Oh, hit pause. Okay, he started out like this. Oh yeah, he did a swipe, he did a shuffle, and just watching anything that had any glimpse of breaking in it. We was all about it, and so that's how we learned. And then people would come and visit and be like, "Oh yeah, my cousin's here from America," and he'd be like, "Oh yeah, he breaks." He'd be like, "Oh yeah, show us. We've been trying to catch turtle. How do you do that?" And he'd be like, "Oh, y'all are doing it wrong," Just like community learning, you know what I mean? And people formed crews, and then the crews would teach each other.
Nice.
Just try to get down. But Beat Street was definitely hugely influential. And I mean, I told this story before, but it's worth repeating for any people who ain't heard it. I mean, we were so into the culture, and I mean, we'd seen the movie a gazillion times. So at the end, towards the end of Beat Street, we'd creep down to the front in the theater,
Yeah.
just be sitting. And as soon as the movie ended and they play the outro music, I think it was like Arthur Baker Breakdance is where it's at or whatever,
Right,
Breaker's Revenge. And then we just start breaking as people are like leaving and people are like clapping. And the first times we did it, security was like, hey, you gotta go, get out, get out, get out. The movie's over. We need to clean the theater. And then after doing it like 2-3 times, the manager of the theater saw it and seeing people clapping and everything. And he's like, okay, I'm gonna give y'all tickets. Y'all need to come back and do that. The next performance, next movie, it kind of
Oh,
adds some
shit.
hype.
Yeah.
So we were just finding our way, just
Nice.
discovering and like just kind of trying to figure out how to be a part of this magnetic culture.
Dope.
Now, music-wise, were labels looking at you while you guys were in Africa, or did everything happen while you were in the United States?
Short story is everything happened in the United States, and here's why. The industry over there, just in general terms, even for local musicians, wasn't super organized, but it was also super focused at just local music. So I remember us talking to some folks at there's one major label in the country pretty much that put out all the different records, and I remember them telling us, well, why are you doing this American music? You should be focusing on your culture. And we're like, no, this is what's hip. This is what the youth are into. This is growing. They're like, nah, you guys are not doing the right thing. And so we're like, all right, man, later for that, and like I say in one of my rhymes, it's like, growing up in Zimbabwe, we were poised to make noise, but all we heard on the radio, all of them Tukudzi and the Bundu Boys. So we had to find alternative means because we was brothers with alternative dreams. So we really didn't have any outlet to do anything like professionally. We kind of did our stuff and, go to people's houses and record tapes and everything. And so we did make recordings and try to figure out what we could do with demos and stuff. But it wasn't until we connected with Funkenklein, Dave Funkenklein, may he rest in peace, who was writing at the Source, but he was also on the verge of going, we didn't know this at the time, we started corresponding with him. He was on the verge of going to LA to start up Hollywood Basic Records. So we had connected with him while we were still in Africa, just via correspondence and letters, and had sent him demos. And he had said, yo, if y'all come to the US, I like what I hear. Let's connect and see what we can make happen. And as they say, the rest is history, because we did come to the U.S. We did meet up with him at Red Alert Productions in New York City at 29th Street. Still remember that walk to those offices and first time in New York City and meeting with him and playing the music. And he was like, yeah, it sounds real good. He's like, I'm liking what I hear. And I'm going to bring you guys to the label and see what they want to do. And he also said, he's like, I want to hook you up with some dope New York producers. He's like, there's a group coming out. And so this is like 91 we're talking. He was like, there's this dope group coming out called the Black Sheep. And producer Mr. Long, he's got real dope beats. He's like, I spoke to him about you guys and he heard your demos. And so he's going to have him cook up something for you. And so that ended up being the song To Beat or Not To Beat that he produced. That was on our first EP that came out. But yeah, stuff only really jumped off when we got to the U.S.
Early on, I think my first time seeing you guys had a nice little chunk in the Source magazine. Can you talk about that article?
Yeah, so it's cool. So we came, Funkenklein was writing at the Gangsta Limpin' with Funkenklein was the column at the Source. And he was cool with all those folks and worked with them. And so when we were, doing demos and, going to the studio, we recorded we recorded the demos and then eventually the stuff that went on the record at Calliope Studios, which was classic spot, from Jungle Brothers to De La to all these folks that had recorded at that studio. So an iconic place. But as we were going through the process and, talking about it, there was a lot of interest in like, yo, tell us what it's like over in Africa, and how was your guys' experience, and how did you even come to hip hop? So all the things we're talking about now that you can like, look up on the internet and be like, oh yeah, there's a group in Uganda rapping, but back then it's like word of mouth, or people had to tell you and relate the oral history of it. And so they were like, it would be really cool if you guys gave us like kind of a breakdown of like, what is your hip hop scene like in Zimbabwe? How did you guys come up? What kind of things did you do? What kind of events were there? And so they're like, yeah, write up an article. So I'm like, bet, like, go to work. And it's like a 2-page article. I think it was like April. It's funny. It's like it came out around independence of Zimbabwe. It was like in April of 91 or 92, an LL Cool J cover. And so we had like a multi-page article about, the hip-hop industry and scene and music. Really no industry, but the hip-hop scene in Zimbabwe. And I remember they were like, oh, do you guys have a press photo? And I mean, we hadn't been signed yet. We had just come over. We hadn't really emerged. And so I remember being in Harlem, and we went to one of those pop-up photo stands, and we just chilled out. Guy took a picture. We brought it to the magazine, and like, yo, here goes a press photo of me and my brother chilling in Harlem. I was wearing the craziest outfit too. I was like, man, but here we are.
Yeah, that's crazy. So wait, tell me, how was the experience when you first came to the United States and you hit New York, going from getting stuff from all over the place and whatever you could get to now being in New York? What was going through your mind, man? What kind of feeling did you feel? Was it intimidating? Was it cool? Like, what was going on through your mind?
Oh man, we were shook.
And that was the grimy 90s, right? You came in the 90s?
And we were shook. Like, 'cause, I mean, I'm 18, right?
Okay.
I've been in the U.S. Like I said, we were upstate New York, but not like with family in New York City. It's like we're going to meet this cat who's giving us an address, and we're going to catch the Greyhound from Binghamton. So if you're familiar with the geography, upstate New York, couple, hour ride to New York City on the Greyhound, as teenagers on our own or whatever, riding out. We'd contacted somebody so we'd have a place to stay for the night, once we finished the meetings or whatever. But I remember you talking about, were we scared or whatever? We had, dashikis on and beads and everything, because we're like, yo, we gonna look the part, we gonna roll up there. And my uncle, first thing he said was like, yo, put on a jacket, cover up all of that, because you gonna look like you out of towners straight up. Like, people gonna be like, nah. He's like, just put on your jacket, whatever. He's like, don't talk to anybody, just you know where you're going. The streets are all like numbers and letters, so whatever, you should be, avenues in the streets, so you should be good. The Port Authority's like 42nd, you're going to 29th, so you could probably walk. So we kind of game planned it or whatever. But he was like, whatever you do, don't get on the subway, because it's dangerous. And so we're like, all right, bet, we're getting the bus, the Greyhound, we'll walk down to 29th Street, we'll be good. It's daytime or whatever. And so we had our coats on. People at Port Authority, how Port Authority used to be. Yo, y'all need help? Hey, what's up? Hey, what's up, fellas? Hey, how you doing? Hey, come over here, come over. And like, nah. Heads down and went. And I remember talking to Funk and Klein, and we're like, yeah, how is it in the city? Is everything safe? He's like, yeah, nah, you're pretty good. You're pretty good. He's like, yeah, just don't go to Grand Central Station. People might try to take your stuff. So like, oh, okay, bet. And then we called the person, and we're like, oh yeah, we're having the meeting and we're going to come out. And they were like in the Bronx. And we were like, so after we meet, we're going to come out, is there a bus that comes out that way? She's like, nah, first go get on the subway. We're like, oh, my uncle just told us don't get on the subway. And we're like, well, where do we get the train at? And they're like, go to Grand Central Station.
Oh, everything that they told you not to do.
We're like, oh, man. And we ended up getting on the train and getting lost and getting out the train and being like, where are we? And, typically helpful New Yorkers, hey, yo, come over here. Yo. Y'all need help? Y'all lost? Well, nah, we not lost. Totally lost.
Yeah.
We went downtown instead of uptown, if that makes sense.
Right.
To the Bronx on the 6 or whatever, or on the 4 or 5, and you get in the train system, and if you haven't been, it's like
it's crazy.
Uptown, downtown, the 4 or 5. It's like, oh, wait, which train to catch? But yeah. It's
Yeah,
kind
that's
of crazy,
dope.
but we kind of rolled with it. You know what I mean? And we had a real good experience too, because when we were with Funk before we left out to go, where we were gonna stay at, he was like, "Ah, matter of fact, let's go over to Mercury Records." He's like, "Cause the Black Sheep are up
Okay.
there. I'll introduce you to some people." And so we went over to Mercury, and I think Drez and Long were there. I think they were working at the time with the Cookie Crew. So Cookie Crew, we'd heard about them because they were out of the
Yeah,
UK.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
There's some executives from Mercury Records around. We ended up spitting some freestyles and rhyming and stuff and talking about what we were about to do. So it was a
Nice.
real cool experience, like real exciting.
Right, right, right.
Real
That's dope.
feeling.
That's dope. So your uncle said about the dashiki and the beads, and then you end up making the song "To Beads or Not to Beads." Did you? did you be like, "Hey, uncle, look, we got this song "To Beads," and how did that come about? That
That
song.
was funny, man. I'm gonna give all credit, yo. I'm not ashamed to say it, Mr. Long, because we were talking about like songs we were doing, and we are doing like doing damage in my native language, straight from the mothership,
Mm-hmm.
African rhyming with the African symphony. I'm trying to go through all the names, and Mr. Long was like, "Yo, everybody's talking about, oh, why you wearing gold? You got to wear beads." And people are like, "Nah, I don't rock beads. I like this gold." It's like it's a whole controversy, like dichotomy in the music. He's like, "So why don't we do a song called To Bead or Not to Bead?" Playing on Shakespeare, to be or
Right,
not to be. And it's like, oh,
right,
that's clever, that's clever. And then so we started writing on that theme of like, yeah, are people wearing it as like a symbol of pride, or is people just wearing it just because it's fashionable? Like, oh, I'm gonna
fashionable.
throw on
Right,
a
right.
medallion just to rock with the trends or whatever. And we did like a little skit at the beginning of the song where he's like, "Yo, I gotta stay up with the style, man." We're like, "Nah, nah, nah. You gotta decide to bead or not to bead." And we got into the
Yeah,
rhymes.
dope, dope.
And what's real interesting, and I'm gonna say this without comment, he came up with that catchy like pre-hook,
Mhm.
where he was like, "Yo, yo, when the song stop, as soon as the beat drop," and so we all got in the booth, and he's like, "We gonna be like, hey, ho, hey, ho," and then he's like, "Check this out, drop it." So it was just like a super great experience, and also like again, like I said, we'd been doing like rudimentary demos and stuff with like simple keyboard and the pre-programmed drum patterns and stuff. So seeing him and Scott Harding on like the 48 track board, and that was without flying faders and automation, put that song together. It was just crazy. Like he'd loop a part and then he'd throw it in, and then he'd add in the break and he'd add in, and just like seeing him be like a mad scientist, just like constructing that song like piece by piece was like super crazy, and like also great learning to be like, oh, okay, so this is how we cook up a dope track.
Right, right, right. Nice, nice, dope, dope.
What do you remember most about the reception for your debut album? This is something different coming from a group from Africa. What do you remember most about the reviews, the thoughts from your peers? What were the people saying when that album dropped?
Yeah, I think it was a lot of excitement because it was early, right? Too. So like, I mean, historically, it's like one of the first, if not the first, hip hop record from an African hip hop group that dropped in the U.S. and then also got widespread international recognition. And yeah, people were like excited about it. Like, yo, wow, okay, y'all are flipping in languages, and y'all doing this to beat thing. Then you got this other song with African instruments incorporated. It was like a real great blend of like music cultures and art, and kind of emphasizing that the roots of music, you know what I mean, and the African drum, and then kind of taking it to a gritty street track like to beat or not to beat, with that head nod boom bap type beat. So I think there was a lot of different things that people latched onto that they appreciated about the project and the group. And I think it also had a broad appeal because it wasn't just like straight up just your run of the mill record, right? Like it had like a lot of uniqueness to it, a lot of culture and a story behind it. And so we ended up like, playing at like different festivals and doing things that were non-traditional, even planning like, oh, okay, well, let's do a show at this like African restaurant and get some African musicians to come through and rock with us. And then, oh yeah, let's just go, and rock at Giant Step in Union Square and rock for heads that are into, everything, that is, East Coast head nod hip hop at the time. And even like we hooked up with a dance company. Actually, Funky Klein told us, he's like, oh, look up this lady, Marie Brooks. She had a dance company in Brooklyn, and we went and called up and said we were going to come through, and we went and talked to them. And she was teaching African dance and drumming, so it was like a perfect harmony. And this was like early on, and we met her, and she's like, what are y'all doing next week? We're like, we're just here, gearing up to do whatever's next. She's like, well, we're going to Atlanta. You want to come with us? Like, what's happening in Atlanta? And like, we're performing around the city at a couple different festivals and a couple of different performance spaces, and we'll put y'all in the show. We're like, all right, bet. She's like, yeah, we'll get you guys tickets. We'll fly down. There's accommodations sorted out. And it turns out my brother, one of the things we were doing at the festival, and we were doing like a street parade, and then Andrew Young, who was the mayor at the time, he was a former mayor, was there, and him and my brother started like doing moves or whatever. Like, how did this happen? Like, we're in Atlanta performing just at random. Like, it was just crazy how.
It wasn't during Freaknik time, was it?
Nah. This is pre-Freaknik. This was just straight up good old wholesome street culture festival and everything. Definitely not Freaknik.
Yeah, because you sure? Because they got that documentary coming out, man. We're gonna be like, hey,
we're gonna see a young
Dumi right there.
Nah. Freaknik, it was funny. Freaknik, I was in college and I was broke, so I remember I had friends. Maybe it's a good thing, a blessing in disguise.
Yeah, right.
Friends, we're going to Atlanta. We're going to Atlanta for Freaknik. I'm like, what? Yeah, now they on the documentary. So I ain't had no money, so I'm good.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
Okay, one question before I pass it off to E. You were label mates with Organized Confusion. Do you have any good memories to share about that time?
Oh man, that was like amazing. Obviously, at first, in Funky Klein was like, yeah, the first group we're gonna put out is Organized. Didn't know, who the Simply Two Positive MCs were at the time, but quickly found out, like quickly, we got some advanced singles, the Who Stole My Piece of Chicken, crazy dope record. And what was super dope too was early on, so I think this is shortly after we signed, and I think the record had just dropped. Hollywood Basic was doing a partnership with a distribution company out in Japan, and so they were doing a release party for this kind of partnership, and all the records, they're going to be having distributed in Japan and in Asia at large through this company. And so they're like, yeah, we're going to fly you guys out to Japan to rock. And this is like early too, so it was like one of our first like professional gigs. Like I told you, I've been performing and rapping, but not like in a sponsored label type situation, just on, little independent stuff and in school. And so, I was confident in our skills and our talent, but again, this was kind of like the big leagues, right? So turning pro, going to the big leagues, and we went with Organized Confusion, so we flew over there with them, out of JFK, and it was cool because we were getting to chill with these cats and kind of build with them and figure out what they were doing with their record. Their record was going to come out, a while before ours came out, so just kind of seeing what they were talking about and how they were going about it and everything. And it was real cool. It's funny, my brother lived, I don't know if I should tell the story, but he lived in like a crazy like rundown spot in the Bronx, 136th and Cypress or whatever. Okay. A crazy rundown spot or whatever. Like when I say crazy rundown, I'm trying to tell y'all like but so we over there, and Hollywood Basic's like, okay, we're gonna send a limo to come pick y'all up. So like, okay, that's cool. I don't think I had been in a limo until that point. But I'm also like, y'all are coming to our spot. We gonna be gone for like 2 weeks. And the people gonna be like, "Who just got picked up in a limo?" Like, "Oh, nobody's home." It's just funny, like like But anyway, so we rode in a limo to JFK, and it was funny too because when we got to the airport, and like there was like, yeah, go to the whatever desk and they'll have your tickets, and we went to the desk and they were like, "Who?" I'm like, "Dumi Sani," like, "We don't have your name." We're like, "Yo, we're supposed to be on this flight." And it's like, "Yeah, we don't." So we like kind of call Cali. Time difference is like 10 o'clock in the morning, 7 a.m. People ain't at work yet. We're like, "Yo, what's it?" And it's a payphone because it's like call and collect, whatever. But they figured it out and whatever. We got our tickets or whatever and went over to Japan. And so it was cool because we got to see Organized perform live. Obviously we were the opening act. We did like some radio spot dates in different places. Went to some different clubs and like, oh yeah, we got some some groups from US in the house or whatever. They gonna rock, And so we did some freestyle sessions and some performances. It was super cool. And then the Club Yellow, I think, was the spot where they had like the big performance. And Takagi Khan, like a Japanese hip hop pioneer, was one of the cats, kind of co-hosting on that side. And it was real dope, just kind of watching, observing, even in sound check and seeing how they sound check and how they got stuff right. And, as we went through our mix. And then we did a live Japanese TV show called The Funky Tomato. That was like super fun, like, because we got to perform. We performed, Organized performed. I think we might have even done like 2 joints each. And then, they sat down for their interview. After we performed, we sat down for our interview. And we were with Funkenklein as well. And so he was kind of breaking down like, well, how did you find these guys out of Zimbabwe? And, so that was like super cool. And then I was telling Sincere the bathroom. And I remember asking Monch after, I was like, "Yo, is the building moving?" And he's like, "I think the building's moving." And it was like a minor earthquake.
Oh, wow.
Like, yeah, man, they must have just shook the ground. Like, it's an earthquake in Tokyo. And here we are. And it wasn't like a serious one or like damage, and I think for the people there, it was kind of like run of the mill. Like, oh, yeah, it's just an earthquake. We're like, "Yo, the building is moving. What's going on? Why y'all acting like this is normal?" Like, "My sister, it's not a serious earthquake. Yeah, y'all be alright. It's designed to absorb that." Like, "Yo, I think we just experienced an earthquake in Tokyo with organized confusion on a live TV show called Funky Tomato." Like, it's crazy. You can't make this stuff up.
Yeah, that is crazy. Yeah, so right on that note, it sounds like you guys, from when you first came over, you meeting all these different people. It doesn't sound like at any point you guys kind of lost like your integrity or your principles of the type of music you wanted to do, the stuff that you guys were standing on. Did that have anything to do with the fact that they were receiving you coming from Zimbabwe? Were they looking at you guys sort of culturally and they kind of kept you in those type of circles? Was that, or you guys on your own? Like, how did you not start doing some kind of gangster music, for example, or hardcore? How did you stay focused like that?
I mean, I think part of it is, like you said, that personal integrity, but also it's not us. You know what I mean? We only know what is true to us and is true to our heart, and that's kind of how we came to the music.
Right.
And so that would have felt like real unnatural, and I think would have been really paper thin. People would have seen through it. Just like when you see cats on these records now, and you're like, "Yeah, man, you ain't really
right.
All that. Come on, stop fronting." And so, in that, I mean, even just from the principles of hip hop, it was like, Stetson Sonic will tell you, no BS allowed. You know what I mean? Like, no biting. It was kind of like ingrained in us that, nah, you got to be original. You got to be true to who you are. And so that's just what we wanted to represent. I think from the music industry standpoint, it was a blessing. Like I always say this, Funkenklein was trying to do something different. Hollywood Basic. He wasn't trying to just get a whole bunch of cookie cutter rappers and just throw a lineup together. I mean, if you see the lineup of the label, it was kind of diverse and kind of eclectic, really. I mean, the Lifers group, real life, people doing life out of prison.
Right,
He
right.
had Organized Confusion. He had
Wasn't
Buzz,
Booyah Tribe was on there?
Booyah Tribe
Right?
was down the line.
Raw Fusion.
Raw
Rough
Fusion, which is
Fusion.
Money B and DJ Fuse from Digital Underground.
Right, 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 right.
Like,
Oh,
he was really trying to do, and
yeah.
he had even told us, he was like, yeah, the label's like, yo, you need to go get us a crisscross. Like, where's our, super, kiddie group hit, type. He
Yeah.
wasn't really trying to ascribe himself to that. He was trying to really do something innovative and different. And he had a lot of belief in us. So, like, even when I say, like, he was a steward of what we were trying to do. I mean it. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
he was saying, he's like, people gonna hear this record years from now. He's like, and they're gonna be like, man, that was something. And it's true. His words have come to pass. Like, to this day, people are like, yo, my brother was telling me he was in Japan just doing something independently, just as Kim, doing some theater stuff, really. And they were like, oh yeah, this is Kim. And they're like, wait, isn't he Zimbabwe legit? They're like, oh, is Zimbabwe legit about to perform? And he was like, nah, I'm here doing some theater stuff. They're like,
Oh,
why
wow.
not Zimbabwe legit? And that's a testament to be like,
Yeah,
wow.
yeah.
Years later, and it's only like now, even with the internet, people hit me up on Facebook and be like, yo, I remember when you guys dropped. I was out in the rural areas in Zimbabwe, and I heard about you guys, and it was inspiring because I was like, oh, look, some people from out here are doing it big, on a major platform. And so, like, the word got around, and I think just from where we were coming from, we wanted to just stay true to that, for better or for worse. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, you're gonna love it, you're gonna hate it, but this is who we are, and we're gonna do what we do. So you hop on board or keep it moving. Like, there's not like us trying to tailor it to the audience. Like they say in The Gladiator, the mob is fickle, right?
Right,
They're
right,
gonna love you
right.
today, they're gonna hate you tomorrow. And so it's like, just stick to who you are, and then
Gotcha.
it'll resonate, because there are people, if you do it right, that feel the way you feel, understand where you're coming from, can relate to the stories you tell and kind of the music you make. And so that's just the hope, that you can find that audience and connect with them, and they can carry you through.
Right, right, right. Before we get into your new stuff, I just have one other question. You mentioned about hip hop principles, and you're looked at as a cultural, ambassador for hip hop. Can you speak on that a little bit? Like, are you doing conferences? What exactly are you doing when it comes to the global cultural ambassador?
Yeah, word. I'm glad you asked that question. So, coming out of the international scene of hip hop, and that's our origins, like, I've kind of stuck with that as kind of my central, theme, if you will. My central mantra and principle is, connecting with hip hop, because hip hop is global, hip hop is worldwide. So even just informally, I've always, even after the records and Bible Legit and after the label, just connected with MCs, artists from all over the world, different countries, and just done collaborations. I mean, I've done collaborations with MCs out of Senegal, out of Colombia, out of France, out of Germany, out of China, like, just all over the place. And that's kind of just been my thing. And also working with folks in the area, since DC's kind of like a international development and political epicenter. There's a lot of organizations and people that have like foreign relations and that kind of interest. And so one of the things we did early on too, and this is like late 90s into the early 2000s and beyond, was set up events at different art spaces for grassroots organizations. So there's a organization called Bavubuka in Uganda, and they do music and art and hip hop for youth, to give them an outlet, to give them a voice, and also teach them. There's other organizations. There's an organization called Performing Life Bolivia that teaches like circus arts to like kids, to get them off the street and give them, an outlet. And so we partnered with organizations like that, and through events, to bring awareness, help raise funds, and then also, use our music and hip hop as like kind of like the platform to carry that through. So just did all of that like informally for years, collaborations, an MC from Botswana, an MC from Ghana, all kinds of stuff. And then my friend told me about, a colleague, a DJ friend of mine told me about this program called Next Level, where Department of State was sending ambassadors overseas to teach hip hop in
Right.
month-long residencies, and it actually originated as in the jazz ambassadors program back in like the 60s and 70s, where like Louis Armstrong went to Egypt. There's a famous picture of him,
Okay.
you know, on a camel by a pyramid and stuff like that, but using kind of music as a way to bridge the gap between nations and cultures. And so anyway, I heard about the program. He went to like Croatia for his residency, and he was like, yo, dude, you gotta apply. This is like so fresh. They'll send you over there, they'll set you up, you'll do workshops and classes, which I was kind of already doing you know, on my own. So I'm like, oh, somebody's got a program where I can do this? Bet. So I ended up going to Thailand and teaching hip hop. So it was myself, a DJ, a b-boy, a beat maker, and we just went over and did like a month-long residency teaching hip-hop and performing, you know, teaching them, you know, like routines and all this, and setting up performances and kind of carrying on that hip-hop tradition of building community. Like I think with the industry structure, a lot of the focus is on, oh, put out a rap record, put out music, which is great. I love it. I do that too. But as Dead Prez told us, it's bigger than hip-hop. You know, it's more to just putting out a song and then being like, next song. And there's also, if that's the only focus, I feel like it's very limiting, because we all know kind of how it is now with the streaming structure, and, you know, physical goods have kind of gone by the wayside. So you really can't even make that much revenue and income just from recording. So you got to perform live, you got to do other things, and you got to build and continue to carry on the tradition in other ways. So I've been able to do that, and as part of the next level, like it's official now, I'm a cultural ambassador. I'm doing that.
Nice.
And actually just last month I was at University of North Carolina. They were having a 10-year celebration of this next level program that I was speaking about.
Wow.
And so they brought in graffiti artists from Nigeria, a beatboxer from New York, another MC from Chicago, from Detroit. I'm losing my
Detroit. Okay. That's all right.
Detroit, D-Essence, dope female MC from Detroit, super dope. Heirloom Beats is the beatboxer, I'll call him out by name, and then Rubric, a b-boy from Chile, and we all did like workshops and put together performances and worked with students out there. And so just continuing to do that work, you know what I mean? And I love it too, because it's kind of like, you know, people say, stick to your lane. I don't really love that, but like find your lane.
Right.
Find out what you excel at and where you can get mileage and traction. And this has been a really good avenue for me. I've also done a lot of work with like universities and schools. And I'm actually an adjunct professor at George Washington teaching a hip-hop ensemble. So
Nice.
full circle, you know. Whoever thought hip-hop would take it this far?
Yeah.
Started out in high school just trying to write rhymes and not liking the sound of my voice on a cassette.
Yeah.
To teaching people how to rap and perform.
Yeah, that's dope.
In
That's
a
dope.
university setting, you know, it's crazy.
That's really dope. Real dope, man. Well, that's great. I'm glad you know have found that lane, and because we do need that. You know what I mean? A lot of people forget the cultural part of hip hop.
Sure.
Real quick, are you familiar with a gentleman named Ras Bernard Benzema from Uganda, by any chance?
Nah, and I might have met him and just don't recall. But
He's someone that has been putting in a lot of work, going to different areas and teaching cultural, you know, of hip hop.
Okay.
He's an MC as well, but he's been doing a lot of groundwork, man. Going to different areas. Am I saying this right? Kampala, Uganda?
yeah.
Kampala. Yeah, he's out there. He's an interesting gentleman that you might want to, you know,
Okay, yeah.
maybe
Nah,
just
if
look up.
If you like send me a message on his name or whatever, I'll look him up.
Yeah, for sure. I know he's on Facebook.
Okay,
Yeah,
word
for
up,
sure,
yeah.
for sure.
Because it sounds like we got aligning visions and goals for what we're doing. So,
Yeah. He was. I don't know if currently, but I know he was dealing with the section of the Zulu Nation
okay.
at one time. Not sure where that stands right now, but that's how I met him. You know what I mean, and heard about him. But he was doing a lot of grassroots work out there.
Dope. You got the number one national college radio single out right now. Life is What You Make It, featuring Chuck D, YZ. Uh, talk to a little Chubb
Chubb
Rock.
Rock.
Talk to us a little bit about that single.
Man, that was like, you talk about like, I remember the A-Team. I love it when a plan comes together.
Yeah.
I had a vision in my mind of what I wanted to do, and it's rare in life that you think about something and envision it, and it can come to fruition just as you planned it, maybe even better. So life is what you make it. I'll tell you an interesting story. Like, I was doing a song. I have a song called No Guarantees. Talks about appreciating people while they're living. And I had it and been performing it live, and it really resonates with people because it's, topical and introspective. And I was like, I need to remix this though, because I've had that song out, and I worked with Chubb Rock. Had the blessing of working with him twice before, like on a song called Wake 'Em Up on Zimbabwei Legit House of Stone. It's me, him, and Last Air. And then on a song called We Don't Need No More Trouble on the Doing It the Right Way album. But I was like, I've loved Chubb Rock's music and really admired him and respected him. When I was a freshman in college, his music was ruling the dance floor. Like, Freedom Right, throw that on. That was the party starter, just the two of us, all of that. Crooklyn Dodgers, love that song, Return of the Crooklyn Dodgers. Anyway, so I was like, man, let me see if I can get Chubb Rock to hop on this joint. Because even just his voice, and like, I knew that would be the type of song that he would really do justice to. So it hit him up. And he was like mad busy doing his tour with the alumni. Like he stays on the road. He has a radio show, and so we weren't hadn't connected. And so I hit him up and was like, "Yo, I know you're mad busy, but really just want to finish up this song if possible. If not, we'll do something again down the line." And he hit me back. Like, I was just sitting there and like the phone rang, and I'm like, "Oh, that's Chubb Rock calling." And I picked it up. He's like, "Oh, Dumi." He sounded like he just like you sound on the record. And I was like, "Yo, what's going on, man? Good to hear from you." And he's like, "Yeah, now remind me, what's this song that we were doing?" He's like, "Yeah, I want to do it. I just said I've been mad busy." And I was like, "Oh yeah," like. So we started talking about it, and we all started talking about the fact that it was the 50th anniversary of hip hop, and also that you gotta celebrate people while they're here, and pay tribute and all that stuff, and celebrate people that are no longer with us and everything. And he was like, yeah, that's real dope. That's dope. And so I had originally just asked him, I've got the hook written, just rock the hook. And he's like, "Oh yeah, yes." He's like, I don't have it right with me. Just send it to me right now. He's like, "And I'm gonna knock it out soon." And so I'm thinking like soon gonna be like week, 2-3 weeks. Later that night, boom, files, in my inbox. He's like, "Yo, text. Just sent you the stuff. Let me know how you like it." He's like, "Oh yeah, and by the way, I know you just wanted a hook, but I did a verse too. Let me know if that's cool."
Nice.
Lovely.
Nice,
Amazing.
nice.
And I listened to it, and I'm like, wow. I'm like, he just captured the essence of everything that I was thinking with that song. And then I hit up YZ because we had been talking and worked with YZ a lot. Fun fact, I'll just jump back for like 10 seconds. Where back in the 90s, we'd actually talked to YZ about management. Because he was running, I think it was 420 sound, 720. I don't mix up with 420. 720 Sounds Management Company. So we talked to him, and we'd build, and his office was right next to the Source, which is how we'd actually run into him. And we'd seen, thinking of a master plan and all that video. So it was like, oh, here's YZ. And then had met him again at an X-Clan show. I think it was like Professor X's birthday party or something. And anyway, so we'd talked to him, lost track over the years, but then had reconnected and worked with him. So anyway, I was like, yeah, I need to get YZ on this song or whatever. It's gonna be real dope. Chubb Rock, do me right, YZ. We gonna knock it out. And I hit him up, and he's like, oh, I'm in. Let me know what you need me to do. I'm like, I'm gonna send you the parts and everything. I sent it to him. He blessed it, in good time. And then I was thinking, I was like, you know what? Like, these are all people that I admired, respected, that are luminaries in hip-hop, that are well-regarded and respected. And I was like, there's one person that I've seen across the years, and we've always talked about, like, maybe collaborating or something, or how we can connect, and that's Chuck D from Public Enemy. And I remember we had met him years back at like the knitting factory, and he's like, "Yo, Zimbabwe legit, y'all are like one of the first to come out, rocking the right stuff. Like you can't do your thing if your thing ain't the right thing," is what he said. And then I met him more recently at the African American History Museum, and he was like, "Oh, what's going on? How you doing?" or whatever. And he's like, "Yeah, let me know if there's anything I can do for you or whatever." And so when I was thinking of this song, I was like, "Oh yeah, let me hit up Chuck, man. This might be the moment to come together." And then he just blessed it with the outro. That was just like, psh. I'm like, man, it's like I'm winning. Like it's how crazy is this? Like it's unbelievable. Even when I listen to it now, I'm like, how did I pull this off? Like how did it happen? But also big shout out to C Doc from Spit Slam, which is Chuck D's imprint. C Doc runs it and runs Spit Slam and manages day-to-day operations. But he was instrumental in connecting me with Chuck, and he also did the track for the song, because I was also like, if we gonna get like KRS said, if this is a remix, then we must remix it. So I had to put a new dope beat on it to spice it up and add some new flavor. And so yeah, it was beautiful, and I'm glad like the reception to that song, seeing the feedback from the DJs, seeing it pop up on like the Rap Attack Lives chart, and seeing people say, "Yo, this song is beautiful, this is impactful, yo, this is a good one." And it's funny because I got on the Rap Attack conference call, and people were like, "Yo, so tell us about yourself." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm Dumi Right from Zimbabwe legit. We signed with Holly Basic in '92." They're like, "Oh, that's you? You was in Zimbabwe?" They're like, "Oh, we thought it was just like a new cat that linked up with some legends and was dropping some heat." I'm like, nah, we've been here. Like, so, but it was like mad love because they really liked the record and appreciated it. So I was just glad like that it came to fruition. Like it was a beautiful thing. And so it's out now. It's out on all the streaming services, wherever you get music, Amazon, Spotify, Tidal, Apple Music, you name it. But it's also on my Bandcamp, and everything I have is under Dumi Right. So it's dumiright.bandcamp.com. If you're on Instagram, it's Instagram at Dumi Right. Twitter, and it's DUMIRIGHT. So folks can check it out, enjoy it, stream it, cop it. It's most helpful if you cop it. And Spit Slam is cool because they also do just-in-time manufacturing of CDs. So if you want the CD single, you can actually get a physical copy of it. You order it, they'll burn it and press it. And send it out to you, so which is dope because I'm from that era. I still gotta have
the physical, yeah.
Especially
sure.
If somebody I can listen to it and keep it around and everything.
Right. Is what imprint is it under? Like, is that just you independent? Is it under Chuck D's imprint?
So it's under Spit Slam.
Spit Slam is the okay.
Yeah, Spit Slam Records, and my production company is PH Music, so everything comes through that. But yeah, as far as like the manufacturing and distro is Spit Slam, and we're working on completing a full length for Dumi Right, the full length album called Forward to the Future. So it's a play on words, like double entendre, like Back to the Future, Forward to the Future. But actually, it's not forward; it's FOREWORD. So like forward, like in the book, like somebody does a preamble about the future, like what's gonna happen, like what does the what's the perspective, what's my perspective on where things are going. So that's kind of what this record is going to be about.
Dope. Outside of that, what can we expect from Dumi Right in the future?
Definitely continuing to rock. I've been honored and privileged to rock at the Kennedy Center a couple times. Super auspicious venue, but also a great epicenter of music, art, and culture in DC. So did that, and we'll definitely be doing that again. Different events that are happening in and around town that I'll be performing at. Coming up here soon. People can see all the details on dumiright.com or my Instagram as well at Dumi Right, performing, and then more workshops. I did this thing with the Fairfax County Libraries that I'm also going to be expanding and taking places if folks want to book it, called the School of MCing, School of Rap. We do like rap workshops. Last summer I did it at a couple of universities in Virginia for like youth, but it's also like pretty much for any age. So be doing stuff like that, and then speaking on a couple panels, still speaking at like different universities and colleges as the calls come in, and then teaching my hip hop ensemble. Like we got like 18 cats in there, man. Like a dozen musicians and like 6 or 7 MCs, and we just put together music. Pay tributes to the classics, create our own stuff, like kind of learn, have fun, and it feels like a real void in kind of that environment, because you can imagine tons of kids, tons of students at university love hip hop, but they don't always have like a formal, they'll have a club, they'll hang out with their friends, but like a formal outlet, sponsored through the university to actually create and learn and craft art. So that's real positive that's a thing. And then there's this song that y'all gotta watch out for. It might be the next single. We'll see what happens. Called "Be Careful What You Ask For." And so got YZ to come back again because he's dope and he's always willing to add some dopeness to it. It's got Elder Sensei on it, and then it's got Speech from Arrested Development, who's another kid I've been trying to connect with for a while, and we finally connected. But that joint is a banger, like off the
nice.
So that's gonna hit him hard and heavy. And the album Forward to the Future, Dumi Right, will be out initially strictly on vinyl.
Oh, I was gonna ask you if you were doing anything on vinyl, man.
I want the collectors to come and get it. Y'all gonna have first crack at it.
Please,
yeah. And then eventually it'll get to the streaming services, so I can get my .00003 cents per stream. Yeah. Let me get a little money with the vinyl first,
No, man, please let us know when that vinyl comes out.
For sure. And then also, like, if any cats want, like, my previous work, House of Stone, which was a real dope record, Zimbabwei legit House of Stone, a lot of great features on it, a lot of great music, including Stick from Dead Prez, Prince Poe, a lot of good stuff on it. That is available through Chopped Herring as like a limited edition remix EP. They put out original versions, some remix versions, and instrumentals, and that's available now through a label called Chopped Herring out of the UK. Big shout out to them, because that was real love, because that record had never come out. It just came out on CD and digital. It hadn't come out on vinyl, so it was like, oh yeah, they wanted to do a reissue. We did that a bit ago, so I think they got a couple copies left, so check them out for sure.
Dope. Before we go, your journey through hip hop has been crazy. It's dope story. You've accomplished a lot up until right now. Have you ever sat in your room or anywhere by yourself and had a conversation with a young Dumi back in Zimbabwe and had a nice little conversation about, man, look at where we are right now? Or is it not time yet for that? Are you still waiting to accomplish some more stuff?
I think it's the latter. Still waiting to accomplish more stuff. What I tell cats whenever I do workshops, or just in general, principle I live by is don't let your past be brighter than your future. Like when we signed as Zimbabwe legit, we're like, yo, we made it, and that was the pinnacle of our journey. Then the only way to come back, the only way to go then, if we consider that the height was down, right? So we got to keep striving to keep rising to the top.
Okay.
What I have thought about is like, okay, you can't, reverse time. I wish I could go back to the future and be like, hey, make sure do this or whatever. Yeah, and by the way, the lottery numbers are. But besides that, I've thought about what would I have done differently. And a lot of times people say, oh, I wouldn't have changed a thing. There's things that I would have changed because I didn't really know or understand. We didn't really know or understand how the industry worked back then.
Okay, right.
We kind of thought like it was I'll describe it as being a passenger in a taxi. Hey, taxi, you get a taxi and you tell them where you're going and then you sit back. You're not over there telling the taxi, maybe some people are, hey, turn the street. Right. It's like, hey, I know where I'm going. You're going to get me there, and whatever, I got my Uber and this is where I'm going, go ahead and get to me too. And that's kind of how we thought it was with the label situation. Like, okay, we're here. We've got the ride. Y'all bring us where we need to go. But now I kind of know, like, you have to super advocate for yourself. you got to build your own network and connections, because eventually that label situation might go away. And then what do you do? How do you continue to move? So when you meet people, making your own contact versus just being like, oh yeah, the label will handle that. Oh yeah, I don't even know where the next show is. I just, this cat will take care of it. So just kind of knowing more and understanding how the industry works, and how the money works as well, and how the money doesn't work. You know what I mean? And knowing what's important and knowing what's not important. People tell you to spend money on crazy stuff, and you'll be like, oh yeah, and then you realize, like, yeah, that doesn't even add up. I could have saved that money and just used that, for something else. So just kind of knowing the ins and outs. And I think, to your point, and so I'm gonna say kind of the flip side of everything that I just said now, but like appreciating how far I've come and we've come, because I think it's easy to you always want to be hungry, and you always want to be looking for the next thing, right? You don't want to be content or rest on your laurels. But I think it's also important to reflect and celebrate, and kind of savor, the moments, because the moments are just fleeting in time. And if you're always just trying to see, you're not even like being present. It's like being at a show with the cell phone and you're videoing all this stuff and looking in your phone and putting all the filters. And it's like you miss the concert, like you miss that moment.
The moment.
So try to enjoy and be like, you know what? Who would have thought I'd be at a university teaching this art form that we were, listening to tapes and trading tapes over?
Right.
I'm rocking at the Kennedy Center. Like, it's my show. Like, I, negotiate the budget. I coordinate the personnel. I arrange the rehearsals. I put together the set list of what we're going to do, and the imagery and the graphics. And, oh yeah, I'm flying down to North Carolina to teach at a university, and like, just think about the richness of experiences, because I think what that does too is keep the inspiration going. I think a lot of folks, especially cats that have been in the game for a while, you get burnout, you get jaded, you kind of get that like, oh man, this industry sucks, I don't like this, and oh, these cats are shady, and these cats are trying to do, but it's like there's goodness in there, you know what I mean? And there's a lot of bad, but like enjoy the goodness, and use that to propel you. Because if you get frustrated and you stop, that's on you, right? Like,
right.
Your journey ended. Everybody else can still rocking, and you're like, yo, I'm not doing that no more. I don't even whatever. It's like find the things that bring you enjoyment, and then also forego the things that don't. It's many a scenes that I'm not a part of because I'm like, you know what? The people, you're in the battle scene. I'm like, nah, I don't need that stress. You know what I mean?
Right.
There's people that do it and love it, and that's good for them, but that's not my thing.
It's not your thing.
If I chased after that, it would just bring me, stress and frustration and anger. Oh, I got robbed, I should have.
Right.
You want me to come out? Let me know how much you paying. Make sure there's some good hospitality. Make sure I can take care of the people that are in my ensemble that are rocking with me, and make sure you promote the heck out of it so there's actually a crowd there when we get there. We'll promote it too. But make sure you do your work too. And
right.
That kind of stuff. So it's
dope.
Well, cool.
Dope.
Well, Dumi, right. Thank you for joining us this evening. Thank you for everything you've done for the culture. The new single is out now. Let them know once again where they can find that at.
Yeah, for sure. So Dumi Right, DUMIRIGHT.bandcamp.com. And you can also just go to straight up Dumi Right, DUMIRIGHT.com. And that's the jumping off point to the Bandcamp, to the YouTube, to the Instagram. Heavy on Instagram with promotion, updates, videos, all kinds of clips and interesting stuff. So just find me on Instagram at Dumi Right. And appreciate y'all, man, for having me on. Like, platforms like these is what we need, and it's frankly what has kept us going, because it keeps the awareness. And I know y'all have the dopest guests, so I feel like I'm in good company and honored to join that esteemed list of people that have come before and that are gonna come in the future. So really appreciate it. I know y'all are connoisseurs of the art too. Like, y'all know what's good and stuff. So I feel
Right.
like it's real cool to be in that company. So I appreciate it.
We appreciate you.
Thank you for that.